Eventide Entertainment presents The Drive-In, hosted by Aaron Lopez. All right, so I'm sitting here with Mike Shea, co-founder of Eventide. He is also a podcast host of Mike Talks Funny on Tuesdays. Track Record, he co-hosts with Robert Yetter. Thank
Robert
you.
Yetter.
On Wednesday mornings. Welcome. Thanks for coming over today, Mike.
Hey, my pleasure. It's good to finally jump in on this one.
Yeah. We were saying that when you came in, we were saying, hey, it's good to finally meet you in person. We've been working together for almost a month and had never actually met in person. So
and we're one of the few that actually live near each other.
Yeah.
Between Yumi and Don.
Yeah.
Because Robert lives outside of Chicago, Jessica lives in New York, and Ellison lives down in the Carolinas. So it's we're pretty spread out. So it was when we were originally looking for a host for the show, and I was like, this guy's local. I like him already. So
there you go. Well, awesome. So today we're talking about Thor Ragnarok. Just a couple, specifics on it. Directed by Taika Waititi, a director that I hadn't actually heard anything about. And when I did some research on him, I had seen some of his stuff. He did a lot of work with Flight of the Conchords. Yeah,
he's done a lot of stuff behind the scenes, writing, producing, but not a lot of directing. A lot of the directing he's done has been small scale. And that's kind of in line with what Marvel's been doing a lot of lately, which is getting smaller directors to take on. I mean, look at the Russo brothers, who are running the game right now, who came from TV.
Yeah.
Ryan Coogler is taking on Black Panther, which looks
very excited
awesome.
For that. Yeah.
But, he did Creed, which I think was one of the best movies of that year. And then before that, did Fruitvale Station, which is a small indie flick.
That's something that I really appreciate that Marvel's been doing, is they are giving all these different directors who have some backtrack. They have some positive vibes going into it, and they say, give it a chance. And I think that, to me, that might be a little bit of Disney saying, we're going to try to reach out and incorporate more people into our big pool of...
Well, and the funny thing about that is also, if you compare that to, because Disney also owns Star Wars, Star Wars they kind of go back and forth on, because they had... JJ take on the first one, which I think was just kind of a safe choice.
Yeah.
But Rian Johnson is doing episode 8, which I'm so happy, because he's such a dark director that I think episode 8 is going to be. But then you also had Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One, who his last film from that was the 2014 Godzilla. Mm-hmm. Which I like more than most people.
No, I agree with you there. I think that overall most people don't like it.
Yeah, and I get why. I can acknowledge, yes, Godzilla, not in the movie a lot.
Not really.
Bryan Cranston dies 10 minutes in.
Too soon.
Those are two things that I'm just like, okay, well, you failed me.
Yeah.
But the stuff that we had with Godzilla was epic. I mean, that final takedown of that last monster alone...
Yeah.
was, I thought, worth the price of admission.
Well, I think we're getting off track here, but I'll tell you why not. Mm-hmm. I think that they're supposed to be doing a second one. Along those same lines, they're going to kind of expand the...
Well, because if you saw Kong Skull Island, there's a post-credit scene that ties it in.
Does it? That's one I haven't seen yet, so now I'm excited. All right, awesome.
But yeah, so with Taika Waititi, again, small name, not a lot of people know who he is. He has a very unique sense of humor, which I think... really showed in this film. We'll get to that later, of course. But yeah, I was really impressed with... I'm always impressed with who Marvel gets to direct their films, because, again, Ryan Coogler, Taika Waititi, the Russo brothers, James Gunn, these guys who they're not Spielbergs, they're not Ron Howards, they're not JJs.
No, and the cool thing is they allow them to do their style. And it's okay if it doesn't follow the continuity of the form, because then we bring in more people into the audience.
Right, and it's great because, I always joke with my friends about our Lord and Savior, Kevin Feige. That man running Marvel I picture him just sitting on a giant throne with servants fanning him with comic books and bringing him silver platters of, this is the story we wish to do for the next film, my lord. Bring me the Civil War graphic novel. And but he really does a good job of making sure that the film itself stays within the continuity of the overall story.
Yeah.
But the directors still get to make the film their way. they have to just hit certain points, I guess.
Absolutely. So continuing on, we've got Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Cate Blanchett, as we'll get into conversations about her. Very well done. And Mark Ruffalo, amongst many others. So before we jump into it, Mike, just to kind of get a baseline reading on your Marvel movie appreciation, what would you say your favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movie would be? So we're talking anything from Iron Man
I'm with you. Okay, my favorite, which I also happen to think is the best one they've done, is Winter Soldier. Captain America Winter Soldier. I don't count Avengers 2, or Civil War. Because there's such large... Even though Civil War is technically Captain America 3, and it is Cap's story, and that's fine, whatever, I'll argue that for hours. Those are bigger ensemble films.
Yeah, not really fair to include them in a whole... In this discussion, at least.
Yeah, so as far as just strictly solo character stories, from what I've seen now, I think Winter Soldier is the best well done in terms of cinematography. The way it really does... It did for Marvel what I think The Dark Knight did for DC, which was it really transcended the comic book film genre.
Yeah. I can see that.
So that's always been the one that I will argue to the death over is Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and that was one that I think you can start to see it change. It shifted the storyline. That's where we started to see them say, okay, we're going to be doing Civil War, thinking long term to some of these other movies. Whereas the Avenger movies, they've been great, but it's all been building up to Infinity War.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you started to see, okay, we're bringing in these other characters. We're starting to do some other things with them. Mm-hmm. Most people don't necessarily agree with this one, but to me, Ant-Man is one of my favorites.
I love Ant-Man.
It came out of left field. It was so unique.
Ant-Man was a film that shouldn't have worked.
It shouldn't have. In every way, it should not have worked.
After Guardians of the Galaxy, I was like, okay... because Guardians definitely shouldn't have worked.
No,
nothing about Guardians should have worked.
Nothing in Guardians led to.
We had the Avengers, and we had but then okay, so here's a film that's got the dude from Parks and Rec.
Yep.
It's got Uhura. It's got a pro wrestler. It's got Vin Diesel as a talking tree. And it's got Bradley Cooper as a talking raccoon with a machine gun. Nothing about that should have worked.
Exactly. And it's got no name recognition.
None.
I mean, really, you only have the diehard fans who are like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy, I've heard of them. I know them.
I'm a huge comic book fan, and I had no idea who that was.
I had to look it up.
It wasn't until in my own research that I found that the team we see in the films never existed together in the comics until the movie came out.
Yep.
Those 5 characters had all at some point been a member of the Guardians, but had never been together. So yeah, Ant-Man was one of those ones I saw. I was like, okay, now if anything's going to fail, it's going to be Ant-Man, especially because they had that whole thing with Edgar Wright originally on to be the director.
They had no director for a while.
Yeah, and I thought Peyton Reed did I think Michael Pena steals the damn movie.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But also when they brought in Michael Douglas.
Yeah, and I was happy that they did not overkill it with him. They kept him in there, but they didn't make him the focal point. And it also is really cool to see that they didn't go with... they allowed Scott Lang to be Ant-Man.
Well, that threw a lot of people off because they announced Michael Douglas casting first. Mm-hmm. So everybody was like, you're getting Michael Douglas to play Hank Pym. How is he going to be the lead in a superhero film? And they said, oh, no, we're going to have Scott Lang. And I was like, oh! Yeah. But what I loved most about it was Michael Douglas was having so much fun making that movie.
Yeah, it was great to see.
He was having a blast.
They're pulling from every single outlet for casting, for directing. Oh, yeah. They're getting the job done. They're doing a really good job with it.
I agree.
All right, so let's talk trailers. Let's get this out of the way.
Man.
We did have a few that I was pretty excited about. Most of them I'd seen before. There were a couple that I hadn't. We got Pacific Rim 2, which I already saw. We talked about when we... Actually, I think this was a couple weeks ago when we saw Geostorm. We talked about that one. We had Maze Runner, The Death Cure, which we talked about last week. Star Wars Last Jedi, which we had on our episode 2. We had a full review of that. So let's look at the other ones that we haven't talked about yet. 12 Strong, the true story of the Iraqi horse riders.
Yeah, I saw the movie twice in the same weekend. So I saw that trailer the first time I saw it.
Okay.
I didn't see it the second time I saw it,
though. Oh, okay.
Yeah. The second time I saw it yesterday, they showed a Justice League trailer.
Really?
Which floored me.
Yeah, that surprises me.
Because they didn't show that the first night I saw it. And I was like, oh, they wouldn't show a DC trailer before a Marvel.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe it's because I went to a later showing and they... I don't know.
No, that's curious. So you got 12 strong. Here's and correct me if you hadn't seen any of these, or if there was one that you did have. The Den of Thieves, the heist movie.
Yeah.
Wonder, which is about the little boy, and then Black Panther, which is the one I was most excited to see.
That trailer's so good.
Just got me hyped. It did exactly what a trailer should do. It got me pumped to see it. So yeah, of those, which one are you probably most excited to see?
Outside of Black Panther and outside of Justice League, I'm going to put those on their own. Probably Pacific Rim, honestly, because I saw the first Pacific Rim long after it had come and gone.
Yeah, me too. I didn't see it in theaters. I think the first time I saw it was Blu-ray.
Because I think it came out about the same time as one of the Transformers movies did.
Yeah.
And so
I think it was
I think it was probably the fourth one, third or fourth one. And so I kind of wrote it off for a while. Everybody told me how good it was. I finally watched it, honestly, probably like a year and a half ago.
Really?
And it was just like, oh, this is good.
Really well done.
And I hadn't seen the trailer until I saw Thor. Thor was the first time I saw it.
Oh, okay.
I kind of try not to watch too many trailers.
Yeah.
One, because there's just so many out there, I can't keep track of them all. And two, trailers nowadays, I think, are getting a little lazy.
Yeah, they just give... Well, that's something I'd like to talk about when we talk about Thor's reveal, because I think that was something that they didn't try to hide at all, and it kind of lessened the impact of Thor. Or, sorry, not Thor, Hulk.
Yeah.
Hulk's reveal. I think that, for me... I'm pretty excited for Pacific Rim 2. I really hope that it does justice to the first one.
I was excited to see that Charlie Day and the other guy, the British guy. The guy from Torchwood, and I can't remember his name now, but he's back as well.
Yeah, they bring back the majority of their cast. Everybody at least who survives the first movie.
Because Idris Elba, isn't coming back.
Yep.
But I like the addition of John Boyega.
Yes, so. You should do well. All right, so here's your spoiler-free summary. Pulled this offline, so you guys can tell me whether or not you agree with this one. So Thor, imprisoned on the other side of the universe, the mighty Thor finds himself in a deadly gladiatorial contest that pits him against the Hulk, his former ally and fellow Avenger. Thor's quest for survival leads him in a race against time to prevent the all-powerful Hela from destroying his home world and the Asgardian civilization. Anything that you'd like to add to that, Mike?
Without spoiling it?
Yeah.
No.
All right,
think there's much you can add to that without spoiling the rest of the film.
So Thor Ragnarok's been out for a week now, so if you're listening to this and you haven't yet seen it, pause right now. Go and see it. First off, what are you waiting for?
No kidding.
Unless you had some major Halloween event over the weekend that prevented you from going to see it last week. Go see it now.
Considering the storm we got hit with.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Sunday night. That was rough.
Yeah.
So go see it. I'll let you guys pause. All right, cool. So now we just got the people who, one, either aren't going to see the movie and just like listening to us talk, or those that really want to see how our thoughts stack up to their own. We're going to try something. We haven't been able to do this in the past few episodes, but we've been trying to discuss it in sequential order. Mm-hmm. So I've got a pretty decent rundown, and if we stick to the sequence, I'll be happy, but Lord knows we're not going to.
No.
So starting out right off the bat, this is something that I wrote down, and I wrote it down immediately and said, well, it's not so new. I love the new Marvel introduction, that comes out. They used to have the paper flipping sound in the comics, but I think this is giving justice to the cinematic universe it's been creating.
And I think it was important they did that because you'd go see Deadpool or an X-Men and they'd use the exact same thing at the beginning.
Yeah.
So this is their way of saying, okay, the ones with the comic books flipping, that's Sony, that's Fox, that's whoever. This is the Marvel Cinematic Universe proper. This is the big, huge, connected, and I think that was really good. And also, it's just really pretty.
It is.
It's really pretty.
It looks nice. It's just got a really good feel to it. So.
And they've had enough movies come out now that they can show a bunch of clips and it be from everything.
You don't see 8 different Iron Man clips. So, but it seems like I'm surprised he didn't make his way into this one because. Seems like Iron Man is forcing his way little by little, but we'll see when we get to Infinity War if he sticks on. All right, so right off the bat, we have Thor down in. I looked this up and I couldn't figure it out. It seems like it's like this underworld, but he's imprisoned by Surtar, who is.
Is it Surtar or Surtur?
Surtur, thank you.
Surtur,
who is this major demon monster.
Basically just the devil.
Yeah, more or less. We have the devil and we have all of his minions, and this is something that we can't talk about this movie without talking about the humor element.
Yeah.
And so let's get into it right away. We have a ton of humor presented in the first 5 minutes, and it continues through the movie. What did you think about the amount of humor and just the humor overall?
Well, it set the opening sequence right before the title screen. That whole thing on with Surtur sets the tone, I think, at least for how the humor and the dialogue is going to go.
Yeah.
They let you know right away, this is what the dialogue is going to be like going through.
Mm-hmm.
With him having the quote-unquote conversation with the skeleton, with the first thing he says to Surtur being, "Surtur, you son of a bitch, I thought you were dead."
Thought you were dead.
Thought you were dead. The whole spinning around. Wait, stop talking. I'm spinning around. I can't see it.
I'm not doing this. It's doing
it set the bar. I thought it was well placed. What it reminded me of, and this is not meant to be a compliment or a detractor, just a statement, it's a fact. It reminded me a lot of the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Not so much the second one.
I can see that.
Because I thought the second one, the humor was cranked up a good bit.
Yeah.
But in terms of the level, the writing style of the jokes and the dialogue, it was in that same vein. And so overall, I felt it did not detract from the movie because there was a time and a place for it, and Waititi knew that, and he used it well. There was never a time where I thought, okay, seriously, can we move on? No, it all felt natural. It felt like something that, yeah, if I were that person in that situation, I'd probably crack a joke too.
Yeah.
And also considering the subject matter of the film's essentially about genocide.
It really is. And it's very sarked up. It deals with
subject matter. Deals with slavery, genocide. I'm sorry. The prisoners with jobs.
The prisoners with jobs.
But yeah, it deals with ego and loss of self. It deals with all the all self-identity. I felt like the humor did a good job, because if you didn't have that humor in there and just had the film as a straight film, that movie would have gotten real dark.
Then we would have gotten Thor: Dark World, and no one wanted to go back.
So many thoughts.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's what I liked the most about the humor element, was that they looked at everything that they failed to do with Thor: The Dark World and said, let's do everything opposite that.
Yeah.
And it started with the humor. There were too many dark elements within Thor: The Dark World, and I think that it hit on the plot points that it wanted to, but the overall movie kind of just flopped.
I felt like a lot of the Marvel films, the MCU films coming out around that time, other than Winter Soldier, even Winter Soldier, when you get right down to it, were filler.
Yeah,
I felt like Phase 2 was a lot of filler.
It was all lead up to Ultron.
Yeah, because Iron Man 3 to this date is my least favorite MCU film.
They killed the Mandarin. They just destroyed that character.
Anyway. But and then you had Winter Soldier, which was good, but again, as far as the story goes, it was mostly just filler for developing the universe. Then you had Thor: The Dark World, which was just basically saying, well, we got to make another Thor movie.
Yeah.
Crap, you know what we haven't done? We haven't actually dropped the name Infinity Stones yet.
There you go.
All right, let's do that, but do it in a post-credit scene.
So we're not actually getting the story.
And let's just get the Guardians. They were just trying to get the Guardians, is all it was. They were putting all their money on Guardians, is what it was.
Which, I mean, that, like you said earlier, I still remember the day I found out about this movie coming out, and I was like, are you serious? Like, come on, guys. This is... We still haven't had... all these other people. We
hadn't had Black Panther yet.
We hadn't had Black Panther.
We were still trying to figure
Doctor Strange.
We were trying to figure out what was going on with Spider-Man. No, we're still not sure what's going on with Spider-Man. And
exactly.
Now apparently there's stuff going on with Fox. Nobody knows anymore. So it's just
So I mean, it's talking about the humor. I think that it was well done. We'll talk about it. There are plenty of moments that we'll hit on. But this opening battle. I think the first 15 minutes, like you said, the build up into the title really set the tone. We had plenty of comedy, plenty of action. The whole scene, the suspense of what's going to happen. We had seen pieces of it in the trailer with him spinning on the chain. but we didn't know what was going on.
Right.
We didn't know. I think that it was very well done. It got me excited going into it. But what I love the most about it is it continued the trend that they had set in the trailers of almost the 80s movie.
Yeah.
Very 80s. The color scheme and
this was an 80s hair metal album cover come to life.
It was.
Not just because they had the immigrant song, not once but twice in this movie.
It felt like more. But
just to hear that went at just the right moment, and they used it just right.
They did use it very, very well.
But yeah, this was a tribute to everything that was wonderful about the 80s, the music, the colors, the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But set in a mythological realm where Viking gods are real.
Well, and talking about the Viking gods, after this, Thor makes his way back to Asgard. He gets out of Surtur's lair, which, again, not sure what to call it, but he gets his way back to Asgard, and he has a confrontation with Loki, which, to me, this confrontation was just hilarious, but also a little dark at the same time. We do get our first of many, many Easter eggs that we'll talk about throughout. But we had mentioned, so you've got Loki is watching some theater. And
as Odin. He's
as Odin.
In disguise as Odin, and getting to watch Sir Anthony Hopkins play Odin as Tom Hiddleston playing Loki playing Odin was one of the greatest moments I've ever seen on screen, to see Anthony Hopkins in a bathrobe on a couch being fed grapes. And then Thor walks in and he goes, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. To me, he did it so well that outside of the fact that you knew it was him, it easily could have been CGI, just because you didn't expect it to be that well done.
If someone had told me
Loki.
Yeah, if someone had told me that was Tom Hiddleston doing mocap to look like Odin, I would have believed it.
It was amazing.
It was so just. Again, that proves that. Anthony Hopkins, can you come play Odin, the father of Thor? Any other actor would have phoned this role in from day one. Because he's Anthony Hopkins and he is an international treasure, he takes every role as seriously as he did Hannibal Lecter. He gets into it, he has fun with it, and him in that scene was worth the price of admission.
I think he lent some credibility to the Thor storyline, because we really hadn't seen enough from Chris Hemsworth to believe him as Thor by the first movie. We'd seen some little things here or there, but he was kind of a stretch.
Captain Kirk's dad.
Yeah, that was a stretch, and all these other people had placed all these different dream casting roles on him.
Yeah.
But now at the same time, I couldn't see anybody else as Thor.
No.
He's done such a great job, but I think Anthony Hopkins casting in that first movie lent some credibility.
Well, and again, I know I've said this about a couple of movies already, but again, the first Thor was a movie that shouldn't have worked. The idea, okay, cool, we did Iron Man, guy with technology, cool. Captain, we hadn't had Captain America yet. We had Iron Man, and we had Iron Man 2, and the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, that was it. And that one's even kind of been forgotten.
The Incredible Hulk is a movie that was retconned.
Yeah.
It wasn't a part of the MCU initially. It was retconned after the fact. It's another thing, but Thor was the first one we got that was really just kind of fantastical. And it was basically Lord of the Rings meets Marvel, and it's again, this really shouldn't have worked. And I thought the first Thor movie, and again, you can lend a lot of that to being directed by Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, God. Here's the thing that I always tell people about Thor is people don't like Thor because Thor's so one-dimensional in comparison to all the other characters that we've seen movies
easily.
on. He's a god who is, he's the Superman of the Marvel Universe. He doesn't really have a whole lot of duality.
Yeah.
And even in that case, Superman does with Clark Kent. Thor's Thor all the time. So his conflict really resides on his sleeve. He doesn't have anything that he can work internally as much. Insert Tom Hiddleston, and there we see our duality. And I think that's what really helps save Thor. And luckily, we get plenty of Loki in this one as well.
Yeah.
So this theater presentation, we talked about this earlier.
I love this sequence so much.
When I noticed that Loki, the actor playing Loki, in the theater scene was Matt Damon, I almost jumped out of my seat. I was so excited. I pointed and yelled almost, Matt Damon. It's Matt Damon. It's Matt Damon.
Matt Damon! I cackled like an idiot. As soon as I recognized Matt Damon, and when I saw it Friday morning, it was me with some parents and their kids. And that was it. And I was just this one idiot sitting there in my Marvel t-shirt by myself with my popcorn. And I saw Matt Damon. I was just like, ha!
It's Matt Damon.
I lost it. And then, I guess I was talking about this before we started recording. When I went back and saw it yesterday, I recognized who else was in the play sequence. You have Liam Hemsworth.
Which we had to look afterwards.
Oh, really?
Because, so me and my wife saw it together, and we were looking at it, and we're like, that's somebody. Who is that?
Right.
We knew it was someone. But then we realized it looked so familiar because it was his brother. And we're like, there's something to it. But yeah, so I didn't catch that the first. I knew it was somebody. I just couldn't put my name on it.
And then Sam Neill, Dr. Grant from Jurassic Park, as
awesome.
Odin in this play. You were just a little blue baby icicle that melted my heart.
I just love the fact that, good on them for getting all these guys, but Matt Damon is the king of cameos. You see him in all these different, I still remember seeing Euro Trip.
Oh my God.
In high school, and him coming on as the, the rocker and singing Scotty Doesn't Know. And he does all these as favors. He just loves to act, and I love Matt Damon for that.
And frankly, I got to be honest with you. As soon as I saw Matt Damon as Loki, I was waiting for Jimmy Kimmel to show up.
Yeah,
I was waiting for
that.
It.
Would have been funny. That would have been awesome.
Because he works for ABC, so he's in the family. So I was like, I hadn't seen a good look at Thor yet. I'm like, is he Thor? Is Thor Jimmy Kimmel? Please let Thor be Jimmy Kimmel. Would have been great.
That would have been really funny.
But yeah, and what I liked also about the play within the film scene is, it felt like something Loki would have written to stroke his own ego. The dialogue was like, oh yeah, no, Loki wrote this. This is anybody who hasn't picked up that Loki was involved in this.
Well, I really love that they continue the continuity of that, because the last time we see Odin and Loki in this context, he has taken over the throne, and we know that. And they portray Loki in all the trailers, but they don't show him as Odin. You don't give a whole lot of that in the trailers. So I thought that was cool to kind of just jump into.
Well, because that's a big plot point, because at the end of Thor: The Dark World, and I had to actually go back and rewatch because I hadn't seen it since it was in theaters. We don't know what happened to Odin. At the end of Thor: The Dark World, we see this sequence of someone telling of this guard who we know is Loki in disguise, telling Odin that Loki had quote unquote died.
Yeah.
And then the next time, and then we don't see either of them for the rest of the film until the end sequence when Thor leaves Odin's chamber and Odin turns into Loki. And then that's the end of the film. So we don't know at this point what's happened. And they didn't, if you go back and notice, Odin's not in any of the trailers.
Yeah, no, and I don't think he was in any of the marketing material.
He was in none of the marketing.
Posters, or anything.
And Loki in the trailers and the marketing is barely in there.
Yeah, I think at one point I saw it was one of the more recent ones, and they had shown him, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was not the forefront. Yeah. They really hit on, Carl Urban, who we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
And,
well, it's hard. It was seeing the film twice now. It would have been hard for them to include a lot of Loki in the marketing, or Odin for that matter, without giving away the movie.
Yeah,
because Odin's part in the film. It's it's impactful, but it's small.
Yeah.
Everything he says or does gives away the plot.
Yeah, it gives away too much.
And same with Loki. A lot of their dialogue is, I can't believe you did X, Y, and Z. Well, there's the movie for you.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so we get Loki to reveal himself as being under the mask of Odin, and Thor tells him, we need to go see Odin. You need to take me to him. And he says, if I could take you, will everything be okay? Yeah, sure. And then we are in, we're in New York. And we see, and here's a little funny moment where you see, here's where I left him, and the building that he left him is in ruins. They're currently demolishing it. But then all of a sudden you see, here's Doctor Strange making his way in. You see the spinning circles, which I didn't portals.
I didn't catch until I heard the music.
Okay,
because you hear a little chime of Doctor Strange's theme, and I was like, oh, because I was like, that looks familiar. Mm-hmm. What is the? And I loved Doctor Strange.
Oh, it was great.
And I was like, what is the circle. That's something. What is it? What is it? And then I hear the music and I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna have fun.
Well, they bring him in there, and
well, actually, before we get to that, there's a moment in this scene that I think is fantastic, and that is we find out what's going on with Natalie Portman. She's done. One line of dialogue. I'm sorry that Jane broke up with you. She didn't break up with me. I broke up with her. It was mutual. End of discussion. That's it.
Write her out of the movie.
Write her out of the movie. She doesn't want to be in it. She doesn't have to be in it. We can write anybody out with one line of dialogue. Yeah. They did that in Age of Ultron. Where's Pepper? Where's Jane?
Exactly.
Pepper's at a board meeting. Jane's doing something also fantastic, and that was it. Because it was just like we didn't want them here. They didn't want to be here, But again, for me, it's like, okay, cool. That's a loose end tied out of the way. We don't need to worry about it ever again.
That's true. And I heard that, and I'm glad you mentioned that because, that's another thing. The continuity that Marvel displays is fantastic, and they have to, being a cinematic universe as opposed to singular movies. They can't just forget about things, especially with the fans that they have. Would eat those little pieces up, and they'd say, hey, here's the problem.
Well, in the last MCU film we had, other than Spider-Man, was Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange was a film that raised a lot of continuity questions. And because and as someone who loves the film, it's not 100% clear about the passage of time that goes on in that film.
Oh, yeah. You have no idea what's going on as far as time.
Yeah, and there's lines of dialogue from the film that I think get misinterpreted. And also, and this is one argument that I have all the time, is there's a line in The Winter Soldier when they're figuring out what Hydra's plan is, and Sitwell says, this thing will stop anybody, this guy, Stephen Strange, this guy. And everybody's like, oh, Doctor Strange is already a thing. Well, so people think that Doctor Strange takes place before Winter Soldier.
Okay.
The reason that's false, one is because there are moments within Doctor Strange, if you look closely, you can see that the date on his computer is a certain date.
Yeah.
But also because they mentioned in Winter Soldier that the computer is designed to target people who are gifted, talented, exceptional at what they do, could be a threat. Because there's a kid in Iowa who scored a 36 on his ACT and is a valedictorian. He could be a threat.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange is this world-renowned neurosurgeon. Yeah, he could be a threat, and he's got more money than Tony Stark. So, I mean,
that's a good point.
So, I think this movie did, and I thought also Spider-Man both did good jobs of reestablishing some of the continuity. Okay, this is where this takes place in time. Because we had Guardians this year as well, but Guardians is so far removed from everything else going on that. So, I think that was a good way of establishing where we're at time period wise in relation to the rest of the MCU, especially also because Doctor Strange does a lot of stuff with time travel. So
and I think that it's really cool because I think that the inclusion of Doctor Strange is, we've been building up for Infinity War for years, but to me it was, okay, now we're starting to see characters that haven't really been together yet, and we're building this Infinity War storyline up, and I knew he was going to be in the movie, but they really didn't. He was not in it for maybe 5 minutes. It was pretty short. It was very short.
And a lot of that was the post-credit scene from Doctor Strange from last year, which I think was fine, though, because we're at a point now where we have grown this universe far beyond the 5 characters from the first Avengers.
Yeah.
We now have Ant-Man. We now have Doctor Strange and Black Panther and all these other characters and more on the way. Sooner or later, when you have that many characters, they're going to have to interact at some point.
Yeah.
And with Doctor Strange's role as being the guardian of the Sanctum of New York City, it would make sense that, hey, this otherworldly being that tried to destroy the planet that one time, he's probably going to know about it and want to do something about it.
Yeah, and that's what's really cool about this scene is...
Yeah, it's just funny.
Yeah, I wrote down, we need a Loki and Doctor Strange movie.
I'd watch the hell out of that.
We need that. It's like Odd Couple. It's perfect. The entire sequence with Doctor Strange, it gives you a little bit of it moves the storyline along for us to find Odin, but ultimately it's a lot of jokes, and they're they're done very well. I loved Loki's line, "I've been falling for 30 minutes." And it was perfect. That whole sequence to me was just done very well with Loki and Thor and Doctor Strange all working together. And also too, the beer filling up and his eyes when it filled up, but then the continual teleportations that happened and him staying in the one spot, just falling each time and getting pissed off. He was really upset.
Oh yeah,
that he's like, stop doing that, and that's exactly what what happened to Strange in Doctor Strange.
It is.
He was mad because everybody kept transporting and he couldn't do anything about it, and he just was falling all over the place. So I thought that was cool.
And again, it was just a great way to again, a lot of this movie does a lot of universe and world building and expanding the Marvel Cinematic Universe in terms of how far it reaches. But that sequence was a great moment to say, hey, but here's this small contained moment where, these two characters would inevitably, because again, after this, we've got Black Panther in February, and then Infinity War in May.
Yeah, we're right into it. We're right there.
We need to start having some characters start to enter. Civil War, I think, was kind of the start. Of all these characters kind of coming together, and then we had Spider-Man, we had Guardians of the Galaxy, which is starting to get a little bit closer to Earth and get closer to what we're talking about. But this was the first movie to really start saying, okay, we need to start having these people, because we can't have everybody meet for the first time in Infinity War.
Yeah. It would. I mean, it's well, that's something we'll talk about when we get to one of the end credits. Because I did some research on it and found some things out. So we'll get to that. So Doctor Strange takes them, throws them into one of his portals, and here we are with Odin on a cliff in Norway,
which is fitting.
Yeah, I love the little nod to Norse mythology there, and him saying that this could be Asgard, in one of his lines, which is cool. But Odin pretty much just lays it on the line here, says, here's what's going on. It's my time to leave. I'm no longer the man that I was, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Which I think that, I mean, as far as we know that Odin is written out now.
Yeah,
Odin's
he's done.
And I wrote down multiple times, but little rest in peace moment. Odin's gone. And this is a moment that he may come back, as we see throughout the movie, as kind of a spiritual guidance for Thor, but beyond that, he's no longer storyline.
And I think it was well earned and well deserved throughout Odin, because in the first film we got to see Odin as just kind of the king who's trying to teach his sons how to take his place. He's trying to build his sons up for the moment that will inevitably come where they will have to take over.
Yeah.
And then in Thor 2, for what it's worth, we get to see him being kind of the warrior king we've all known him as when the Dark Elves start to invade, and having to be this great warrior, but also still, again, offering guidance to his son, because he's telling his son, you're coming up on that time where you are going to have to take over soon.
Yeah.
I can't do the Odin sleep forever. Eventually, you're going to have to take charge. And so in this one, this was kind of his way of saying, you know what? I'm done. You're ready. Mm-hmm. By the way, you got some other stuff you got to take care of. Bye.
Yeah. We get some storyline here that tells us, hey, Hela, who we've seen throughout, we know she's the villain, but now we know that she is the sister of Thor, the firstborn and the true heir to the throne, who's been pretty pissed off for many years because she's been thrown into exile.
Yeah, unless you live in Australia and had that spoiled for you on that morning show that one time.
Oh, really?
There was some morning talk show. They had Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo, and one of the hosts goes, so Kate Blanchett plays your sister, Hela, and you see Hemsworth's and Ruffalo's faces just go, oh, shit.
Oh, no. No, I didn't hear about that. Luckily, because then, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and I will say, this is the point for me in the film where it finds its pacing.
Yeah.
Because up to this point, I felt like, and this is one of the things that I kind of took away from the film, was the first 30 minutes are kind of jarring.
Yeah, a lot happens, and it
happens.
Hits you.
A lot of we're here, then we're here, then we're here, then we're here, and then the story kicks in and it slows down a bit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that may have just been. I had the same problem with Rogue One, and I love Rogue One, but Taika Waititi talks about how much he cut from the film. I think a lot of what he cut was from the beginning of the film.
I'm sure, because it sets it up. I was a little worried we were going to get another, original Thor, because there was a lot of background, and I was like, we know so much about this. We don't need as much.
And that's why I think that play scene is so important too, because again, I saw Thor: The Dark World in theaters and never saw it again. Mm-hmm. And that was Taika Waititi's way of saying, By the way, in case you missed Thor: The Dark World, here's essentially where we last left Loki. Allegedly dying on a planet, and Thor mourned him, and that was kind of it. That's the last. So for anybody who didn't see The Dark World, or like me, kind of forgot what happened.
Yeah.
It was a great way to say, by the way, here's what happened, moving on.
Well, I've had people ask me, what'd you think of Thor? Was it good? And I said, I loved it. And they said, did you have to watch everything ahead of time? You don't have to. You are going to miss things if you haven't seen all the movies. But the same thing can't be said that if you don't watch the first or second Star Wars, that you will kind of be able still to enjoy the third or whatever it may be. Yeah. You can enjoy this movie through and through without having seen the first two or any of the others because of those kind of catch-up summaries.
Well, even when we first get to Asgard, we see Scourge, the Executioner, running the Bifrost, and Thor asks him, "Where's Heimdall?" And he says, "Oh, Heimdall, he's gone missing. He was charged with treason, then he disappeared. No one's seen him since." That happened in Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah. And I'd forgotten about that.
I did too. I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. But again, it was like, here's what happened. You didn't need to see the film. Here's what happened. Moving on.
Yeah, and they did a really, really good job with all of that. And while we're talking about him, Karl Urban as Executioner Scourge, what did you think? Because when I saw Karl Urban in the trailer, I was disappointed because I don't think there's been a movie that I've seen him in that I thought he did a good job with. I mean,
Dredd?
I haven't seen Dredd.
You haven't seen Dredd?
No, I haven't seen Dredd.
Oh my god.
Do I need to see it?
You need to see Dredd.
All right, that's on my
okay,
list now.
I know everybody craps all over the Stallone Judge Dredd film, as they should. The film was garbage. Karl Urban's Dredd movie is a thing of beauty.
Okay.
It's a shoot 'em up, weird sci-fi, but I mean it is just something to behold. So see that.
Every time I think of Karl Urban, I think of Doom. That's the first thing that pops into my head.
See, I never saw Doom.
And Doom was so poorly done.
Yeah, but I see Karl Urban and I think, okay, I love him as Bones in the Star Trek films.
Okay.
I love him as Dr. McCoy. And I loved him in Lord of the Rings as Éomer. I thought he did a good job. It wasn't a huge role.
Yeah, it was not one of his larger ones.
I thought he did a fine job as the character for the way it was written. My problem with the character of Executioner Scourge in this film is he serves no purpose.
Yeah, he's pointless.
He's a wonderful character. He's funny. He has a great emotional journey throughout the film. He does. They did a lot with him. He serves no purpose to the actual plot.
He doesn't, and that's something too that the Executioner. There's a scene in which Hela is speaking with him about what her role was with Odin, and now that becomes his role. That was a really big moment in time for him.
Yeah.
And I think so much more could have been done to make that person the Executioner instead of having him start out as this kind of just buffoon who...
Well, and also, I wanted to know more about him. Because we find him at the beginning and he's running the Bifrost. And I'm like, okay, he's an Asgardian warrior.
It's a big deal, though,
It is a big deal. It almost looks like they've been doing it in shifts.
Yeah.
Because at one point, then the next time we see the Bifrost, Volstagg is running it.
Yeah.
So it seems like everyone's just kind of like, all right, who's not busy? You go run the Bifrost for a couple hours, you know.
Well, and okay, so here's one thing that this is one of those really deep Easter eggs, and I don't know if this was coincidental or if they were just testing their audience. So Scourge goes and talks about the two guns that he found in Dallas.
Right, yeah.
Dez and Troy for Destroy. Well, I'm a sports fan, and Dez Bryant and Troy Aikman are both Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if that was just me stretching it.
See,
really
I'm not a football
far.
fan, so I didn't catch that.
So, but to say Dallas, you could have said anywhere. If you wanted to even say just Texas,
I think he did. I think he did just say Texas.
Did he say Texas?
But even so,
here you go.
Yeah.
Dez and Troy, two very prominent figures on the Dallas Cowboys.
See, I'm gonna check IMDb and see if anybody else caught that. But that's I didn't know because I'm not a football fan, so I didn't catch that.
And I was thinking, I wasn't even making the connection of Destroy.
I
was
thought,
like,
really?
here's him just talking about this, and this puts us in a timeline of like, okay, we're at least
Well, and also even that being said, it's a if that is what they were doing, it's a clever joke because if you're a football fan, you're gonna catch that.
Yeah.
If you're not like me, you think it's just a funny Destroy joke.
Yeah.
Which also I will say is along with what the character did in the comics. He had the swords and the axe and he had the guns too.
The guns were that's one of the prominent images that they
Yeah.
show when you see the Executioner. Absolutely.
But yeah, when I heard the Executioner was going to be in the film, I was super psyched because the Executioner is a fun character, especially for Thor. Karl Urban, after seeing him in Dredd, I was like, okay, yeah, absolutely, I'm sold. The way he portrayed him and was written, I thought was fine. The character itself just serves no purpose. You could have removed the Executioner from the film completely, and with a couple of quick rewrites here and there, it would have made no difference at all.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because again, he does, I think, have a fantastic emotional journey throughout the film.
He does.
Because at first he's like, cool, because like I was saying before, we don't know a lot about him. He's running the Bifrost, and then he says, oh, I'm just a janitor. Mm-hmm. By the way, Thor, we fought together on this one planet, which tells me he's probably, because he's an idiot.
Yeah, he's an
Scourge
idiot. Is not the brightest of Asgard.
So what that tells me is he probably was at one point a soldier and then just screwed up a lot and is like, okay, you're on janitor and Bifrost duty. Just go over here. We don't have to deal with you.
Well, and they haven't used the Bifrost in years, too. I mean, he's being able to utilize it to just go to different places and collect stuff. He sees this collection of cool stuff. We haven't heard from Thor in quite a long time. He's been off,
Odin hasn't been, police hasn't been, patrolling the other realms. And so yeah, good character, well acted, served no purpose to the film whatsoever, and which is a shame and it's a shame too that, this is the spoiler discussion, that he dies in the end.
Yeah.
Because I would have liked to have seen more from him. Have him, because he has a great moment of redemption. Mm-hmm. But, save that character so that while Thor is like, hey, I got to go do stuff. Can you, keep an eye on things for me?
Yeah. It would have been nice to see a little bit more of him long term. I agree.
Yeah. But it is what it is. We got what we got.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was good character, just not utilized well.
So jumping back into the storyline, we've got Odin passing away. Rest in peace, Odin. Hela shows up and within seconds destroys Mjolnir.
Ooh.
Which is a huge... that is a huge callback to Winter Soldier catching the shield. This is that moment of the impossible happening, and Thor even says, this is impossible. Mm-hmm. She should not be able to do this. And we find out it's because she was worthy at one point.
And I thought what was great about that Mjolnir being destroyed scene is because up till this point, Mjolnir has been an active role in the film. The opening sequence with Surtur, we spent a whole 2 minutes just focused on Mjolnir.
Yeah.
A lot of the humor...
Which that was really cool done.
I love that.
The visuals of that from that perspective were really cool.
A lot of the humor we had up to this point was focused on Mjolnir. Mm-hmm. Mjolnir was the star of the first half hour of the film. And then, boom, gone.
The umbrella. In Doctor Strange. That was great.
And what I loved about that was it was such a great callback to the comics. Because in the Thor comics, when he's banished to Earth with crippled, and he walks with a cane, and he taps his cane on the ground, and that becomes Mjolnir, and he becomes Thor. So it was a great callback to the way Thor was in the comics.
So we got Mjolnir destroyed, rest in peace, Mjolnir, and then we find our way back to Asgard, and that's what gets Hela back there. They get called back through the Bifrost.
Nice going, Loki.
Yeah, and it's funny because immediately Thor's on him saying no, you idiot, but it's too late. Hela's there. Which takes us into the kind of the second half of the film on Sakaar, which eventually we get there. So I think it's a good place though to pause. Let's go to the lobby, grab some drinks, refill your popcorn, and see what's coming next from Eventide.
What's up at Wiley's?
Hey guys, it's Mike, and it's time to let everyone know what's up at Wiley's this week, brought to you by Wiley's Comedy Club here in Dayton, Ohio. This weekend at Wiley's, it's the Super Dope Comedy Festival, hosted by Dan Seabury. This will be going on Friday and Saturday at Wiley's, and it's going to feature some great comedic talent from the Miami Valley, such as Joe Young, John Morris, Dusty Harvey, Chris Seimer, Dwight Simmons, and a whole bunch more. And your headliners for all the shows will be Brooke Cardis and Renan Hirschberg. Tickets are only $5 at wileyscomedy.com and $10 at the door. This show goes on Friday at 8 p.m., Saturday at 7:15, and Saturday at 9:30. For more information, go to wileyscomedy.com.
And Sunday, just like every week, it's the Wiley Sunday Comic Show. This is the very best in local talent from right here in Dayton, Ohio. The show goes on at 8 p.m. on Sunday, and tickets are only $5. That's what's going on this week. For more information, go to www.wileyscomedy.com.
You know, there's nothing quite as satisfying as a good conversation with intelligent company.
Join comedian Don Smith every week as he sits down and talks with comedians, actors, filmmakers, writers, and everyday schmoes. It's The Life with Don Smith, Wednesdays at noon on 106.9 FM, and now available on the Eventide Entertainment podcast feed every Friday on Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So we're gonna get really close here. We're gonna be talking about Sakaar, and that's where we see Hulk. Before there, though, we get Hela, who jumps into the Bifrost, and she ends up being back in Asgard, which to me I felt the one of the major elements of the movie that I had I was disappointed with.
Okay.
Was the very, very quick deaths of the Warriors 3 back in Asgard.
I hated it the first time I saw it. The first time I saw the film, I hated it. I was like, are you kidding me? Second time I saw it, however, my thought was, these are the 3 most powerful warriors in Asgard. Mm-hmm. They are the Warriors 3. They fight alongside Thor. To me, it was their way of showing just how relentlessly powerful Hela is, that she could dispatch the warriors that quickly.
Yeah.
The only reason that I forget, the only reason I remember Volstag's name is because he's played by Ray Stevenson. But
the one that I didn't remember, and my wife and I were talking about this, is what happened to Sif? Was she part of that?
That was a thing that I wrote down here. I have no idea. It's never mentioned, because as far as I remember, she was at the end of Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
And we see that actress in the play playing Lady Sif.
Yeah, so it's not as if they're forgetting about her.
She wasn't mentioned at all either.
So maybe she comes back in Infinity War.
Maybe.
Or something,
I think maybe this has more something to do with the fact that NBC wouldn't give her time off of her show to go shoot the Thor movie.
That might have been. I mean, so you have that, but then I also think that Valkyrie, as we'll talk about here in a second, she starts to take that place of the female warrior.
I'm not sure you could have Sif and Valkyrie in the same movie.
No, I mean, it wouldn't make sense. I mean,
because then you have basically 2 characters playing the same role.
Yeah.
Not that I think that they couldn't have some cool scenes together.
No, and they're both great characters, but it would feel a little redundant to include them both.
Yeah.
And it would add almost an unnecessary love triangle to a situation that you didn't.
Which we already don't even know what's going on there either. And
exactly.
Because you could have easily replaced Valkyrie's character with Sif.
Yeah. And really lost, the only thing that you would have lost is the fact of you'd have to build into how did Sif get into Sakaar. That's it.
Right. But also we would have lost that amazing flashback sequence that we get later.
Oh, which was just visually stunning.
Also, we wouldn't have Tessa Thompson.
Exactly.
And Tessa Thompson in this film as Valkyrie is to die for. But yeah, no idea what happened with Sif. It's never mentioned. And I think it's probably best that they just didn't mention it. Like, let's not try to shoehorn a reason why Sif's not here. She's just not here.
Yeah.
And again, now granted, I have not been caught up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know Sif has cameoed or guested in several episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That's one I never got into. It's not that I don't want to.
I don't know if it's a plot point from there.
Okay.
I have a friend who's an EP on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I could ask him.
Hey, what's going on here?
Hey, but quick question. Lady Sif, did y'all screw that up?
Is that just a oh shit moment?
But yeah, so Lady Sif's not there. But yeah, as far as Hela dispatching the Warriors 3 as easily as she did, like I said, the first time I saw it, I hated it. Seeing it a couple days later with some fresh eyes and fresh thought, for me, it was more of a statement of just how powerful Hela is.
Well, but then for me, I think it was interesting because you had the third one that has a little bit more time to him, but has an awesome
Great,
death.
Yeah.
I mean, his death is probably the most visually disturbing of all of them.
Oh, yeah. But I can also write that up to just Volstagg and the other guy were just caught off guard.
Yeah.
They were just like,
this isn't who we expect coming back with.
Who's this? Why is she waving her hand? Ow, my chest hurts, I'm dead. Whereas the other guy was like,
he prepared.
Hey, I'm here with an army and a mace. I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
He was more prepared and on par. So, but also, again, at that point we're 30 minutes in and we haven't really kicked the plot into motion yet. I think at that point it was also a matter of like, okay, we got to get the story going.
Yeah.
We got to get moving here. So, but yeah.
So Hel's back in Asgard. She resurrects her Asgardian army, and Ferris, which my wife loves dogs. We have a running joke that anytime we see anything that resembles a dog, we yell puppy, and she had to prevent herself from yelling puppy in the middle of this theater.
It's a big puppy.
You know, and that if she were to take a little cameo here today, she would definitely tell us that Fenris is one of the characters she wanted to see more of throughout the film. I was waiting for Sif to ride him, Hela to ride.
Yeah.
Fenris. Never happened. We see it kind of a little bit in some of the images.
We see it in images and flashbacks.
Yeah, but we don't actually get that moment, which is kind of disappointing. But.
Yeah.
So she resurrects her army, utilizes the Eternal Flame, and then we see Heimdall, who has returned to steal the Bifrost sword, thus kind of giving us the pause that we need to jump into Sakar's storyline because she needs to find this sword.
It's a great transition because now it's like, because you don't, it's not revealed that that's Heimdall until later in the film, but at that point you're like, that's probably Heimdall.
Yeah. Well, and we'd seen him in the trailers at least once. It was, I think, a very short moment, but we saw his face. We knew he was in here. But then he's referenced early on as being gone and missing. So yeah, it's very clearly Heimdall, but we have no other reason to think it's anybody else at least at this point.
Yeah.
So then we jump into the Planet Hulk version of Thor Ragnarok, with Thor crashing into Sakaar, and I was adamant about a couple years ago reading Planet Hulk and that whole that arc, and so I was thrilled to see this finally coming to play. And I saw that it was a couple years ago that they actually had a World War Hulk movie in the plans, which ultimately became this, Thor Ragnarok, where they just combined the two.
And a lot of that's just because Universal still technically has the rights to Hulk. So anytime...
And it's tough. We've seen two different times that Hulk really can't do his own movie. It's and I don't know if we'll ever get it.
The first Hulk movie... Everything was wrong with that movie.
That should be thrown into the abyss.
The Ed Norton Incredible Hulk movie, which I actually like, there was a lot wrong with it, but there was a lot right with it too.
Yeah.
And I think the reason people didn't respond well enough to it is because everyone thinks it's a sequel to Ang Lee's Hulk. And it's not. It's a reboot. It is a standalone film. It was only a few years after.
It came out so quickly that it was surprising. It was almost like if you didn't know the backstory behind Sony selling Spider-Man, you would wonder, why do we have a new Spider-Man in this storyline?
Oh, yeah.
So it was almost like that, with just a couple of years in between.
Yeah.
Because
Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out in 2014.
Yeah. And every indication was a Sinister Six movie, and we knew where we were going with that.
Yeah.
And none of it happened.
None of it happened. But we get to Sakaar, which this is the point where, and again, all the Planet Hulk illusions in the next 45 minutes of the film
were awesome.
Oh my god! Even in the trailer, because that first trailer where the last thing you see is Hulk busting out of the gate, I saw him in that armor, and I was just kind of like, I don't care what happens the rest of the film as long as I get this 45-minute chunk.
Yeah.
Of Planet Hulk. I don't care what else happens.
And then we have a ton of them. We see some of the Grandmaster's tower a couple times as ships are flying by it and into it. We see some of these former champions' heads on the tower, in which one of my favorite Easter eggs was Beta Ray Bill as one of those.
I thought so.
It was him.
I thought I saw Beta Ray Bill, and I wasn't sure.
I was honestly hoping we'd get more than just a picture.
I was really hoping he'd be in the
him.
movie.
I thought we would have gotten
I was
something.
hoping we'd see him in the movie.
I think we will get Beta Ray Bill. It may not be for a while, but I hope so.
Man, God, just...
But you had Beta Ray Bill, but you also had a couple, and I can't remember the names of a few of these guys, but you had the...
I swear one of them looked like the original Captain Marvel.
It could have
Marvel,
been.
the green and black dude. I could be wrong, but I swear one of them looked like him. And since we're gearing up for Captain Marvel with Brie Larson, I mean that's happening.
Yeah.
I thought maybe this is their way of acknowledging that Marvel has existed in this universe already.
Yeah, and I mean, it was cool to see all of these. I'm excited to see, and I think that isn't the plan for Larson's to debut in Infinity War.
I believe so.
Okay.
I had a bet going that she was going to make an appearance in Guardians too.
Okay.
I'm glad she didn't. There was enough going on in that movie. I felt like she may have just kind of overcrowded the film.
That was something that I mean, now that you mentioned that, they didn't really get a whole lot of Nova Corps in the...
Well, no, because I think at that point the Nova Corps is still rebuilding.
Okay, well, yeah, from the end of the first.
For how many of them were wiped out at the beginning of the first Guardians, but yeah, so I could be totally wrong. It could have just been a coincidence it looked like that. But yeah, the Beta Ray Bill one, like I said, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it was definitely him. I even looked it up after the fact because I was like, oh, this has got to be him. And it was. So there was another one in there, and I'm trying to look it up, but I can't find it.
Yeah,
It was
I'm
the one with
pulling
like
up
the
on my
two
phone
heads.
right now, and...
there was one with like the head on top of the head, and that's a character. So there were a couple little Easter eggs there. But we do see Thor, who crashes into Sakaar. Immediately we are introduced to Valkyrie, and shortly after that we have Grandmaster. Before we actually see the Grandmaster, though, my favorite obscure reference, which wasn't necessarily that obscure, but just very well done, was the Willy Wonka tribute.
Oh my god!
And playing the Pure Imagination song alone, that was awesome. But then even at the very end with the red flashing lights,
the way they're simulating the
boat ride, yeah.
with the Pure Imagination song. Both times I saw it, the theater just lost.
It was great.
Minds. Oh my god!
And it wasn't. It came out of left field. There was no reason for that to be in there. There were no connections that I could at least immediately see. But I thought it was really it was funny. But then we see Grandmaster. I want your thoughts on Goldblum.
I want a movie of Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster.
Awesome. It was Jeff Goldblum as Jeff Goldblum dressed as the Grandmaster.
Because I saw Independence Day Resurgence like everybody else did, and I was excited for it like everybody else, and I wanted to kill myself after watching it like everybody else. Mostly because Goldblum was just bored. You could tell he didn't want to be there.
They didn't give him anything.
He ran out of money from his Law and Order residuals, and the apartments.com commercials aren't paying like he thinks they should.
Yep.
So he did Independence Day. Whatever, fine. And when I first heard Jeff Goldblum was cast as the Grandmaster, it was right after seeing Independence Day, and I was just kind of like, oh man, I'm so scared. And I loved every moment of it. He was having a blast. Every line of dialogue out of his mouth was a gem.
Yeah, and it really allowed him to do what he does best, which is almost feel like he's improvising. I wouldn't be surprised if majority of his lines were filmed multiple times and just say, here, go and say a few things and respond to what's being said. I can't wait
for the Blu-ray.
Oh, it's going to be amazing to see the outtakes and the multiple takes.
This was Jeff Goldblum at his Jeff Goldblumiest.
Oh, absolutely.
He was just on fire. He was dynamite. And it didn't feel out of place.
No, it fit perfectly.
So well.
And it was because I think it was removed from all storylines that we knew, and so you had nothing to compare it to. It was just an expectation that this was okay.
Well, and this was a character I didn't know a lot about, so when somebody told me that he's the same race as the Collector...
They're brothers.
Are they brothers?
They're brothers, yeah.
It made a lot more sense to me because when I saw him, I was like, he kind of looks like the Collector on drugs.
Yeah, and actually that was something too that I didn't know that originally. I can't take credit for having that knowledge, but my wife actually thought it was the Collector, and I just say no, this is a different character. But I looked into it a little bit more, found that these two are brothers, which is why they are very similar in behavior and look.
Let me ask you this, because right around here is where we have the scene where he takes Thor in the other room, and he's seated next to this other guy who we find is the Grandmaster's cousin or something like that, and he melts him with the melting stick.
Yeah.
The guy that he melts, is that the shop owner from the first Guardians?
It looked like him, but I don't know if it was.
Okay,
I don't remember. I don't think it was, though. I think that didn't he die in the first Guardians? I thought that...
I don't know if he died. I know that because Yondu shows up in my favorite scene in the film and threatens him and screws with him. But I don't think he kills him.
Okay. And I don't know if it is. If it is, that's awesome and good on them for being able to grab him and use him that way.
Could be that because we don't really know why he's executing him. It's not really made clear.
No, they just say that he's forgiven. It's okay.
You're absolved of life.
Of life, yeah.
So that makes me wonder: did he execute the guy for letting a Power Stone or an Infinity Stone get away?
Maybe.
I don't know. That's something I haven't been able to figure out yet. But if it's not the same guy, then it's the same species.
Yeah,
because he looks just like
he does.
him.
He's got the same. He's bald with. It looks like he's got a little bit of the pointy ear.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me.
But again, also great Jeff Goldblum moment. He melts the dude, and he's like, "Oh God, I'm stepping in it. Oh, ew,
I'm stepping in it.
Ew.
And the smell and
Thor losing his mind. Oh my!
Yeah.
This is some of the best Thor because Thor comes out of the Willy Wonka tunnel and is screaming like an 8-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And then he just is in a room with people still screaming. And he's like, oh God.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Here's another character that, since you mentioned the melting stick, Topaz, who I looked up more because she felt a lot to me like Scourge did. Not necessary, kind of the right-hand woman.
Right, but with her, they weren't trying to make something more out of her character.
Yeah.
She was just there to fill a role, which is, yeah, the Grand Master would have someone as a lackey who was just, in this for the job. You couldn't have Valkyrie be that role. She had too much else to do.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of whom, we've already met Valkyrie at this point.
Yeah,
she brings Thor to the Grand Master.
Well, and I love that they call her Scrapper 142 because that number is significant because of Hulk issue 142, which isn't necessarily the very first time that she is portrayed, but that's one of the issues of Hulk she works her way into.
Gotcha.
So that was another one of those Easter eggs that I was looking up to see, and I was like 142 because I always think about like the number. Anytime a number, like obscure number, means something.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some connection there to an episode or an issue.
So yeah, we get to meet. She is Tessa Thompson in this movie as the Valkyrie is something special.
Well, it fits very well. It brings you when the first time we see her, she's like, yeah, "He's mine," and then she falls drunk, which is funny. But then she brings out the kind of the virtual reality simulated remote controlled guns from her ship and wipes out 35, 40, 50 guys in a span of about 3 seconds. Which is pretty cool.
Establishes right then and there she's not someone to mess with, drunk or sober.
Yeah, which she drinks a lot in this movie.
Oh, she was my hero for that.
Yeah, she drinks a lot.
Because I love the scene where this is later on where she's like, I've been trying to hide all my feelings from drinking, and Thor thinks she's going to quit drinking. Well, I was concerned you've been drinking too much. She's like, no, I'm not going to stop drinking, and I'm like, that's my girl. Don't you stop drinking.
Well, and I love the Sakaar version of a 6-pack that she buys. It looks like some energy core that she's taking to her car, and nope, it's just beers.
Oh man, yeah, she was easily, other than Jeff Goldblum, I think she was the standout of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's not to take away from anybody else, but man, because before the film came out, everybody was like, "Oh, are we going to get a Valkyrie movie?" Because that's kind of the popular thing now. Yeah. Oh, this character's cool. Are they going to get their own movie? I'd watch a Valkyrie movie.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they will. If they haven't given Loki his own movie yet,
I know.
If
Black Widow hasn't had her own movie, because I'm still waiting to find out what happened in Budapest.
Exactly.
Just saying, I want that story.
And I think ultimately we may get there, but it might. I wouldn't be surprised if they threw in another Budapest reference in Infinity War just to piss off all the fans waiting for it to say, "Hey, you're going to get teased a little bit."
That needs to be the next Netflix series.
There you go.
Like Agent Carter, just do a one-shot 8-episode of what happened in Budapest. You can just cast somebody to be a younger. You can cast Jeremy Renner and Scarlett Johansson, or cast somebody younger. I don't care.
But give us a storyline.
I want to know that story. Anyway.
So we before we get to the contest of champions, we do get our Stan Lee cameo. Which loved it. I don't think there's been a single Stan Lee cameo that I was disappointed with. I am really, really scared because he's getting so old, but he's gone out and filmed cameos for the next 10 movies. Like he's got a lot of them out there in case something happens.
And I think a lot of that came from the passing of his wife.
Yeah,
kind of, which was just awful, because you want to talk about a couple that there's no couple more in love than those two.
Yeah, and for so long. I mean, I think they were. I think it was from high school that they had met.
Married young, because he met her when he went to go pitch his first writing job or something.
So pretty cool.
So yeah, I think that was kind of a shock for him. Like, all right, I can't do this forever. No. I'm 90. So yeah, I think they filmed like 10 or 15, and so
he will be in movies long after he passes.
Oh yeah,
because I know if maybe he defies us all and lives through all 15 of those, he'll get into the studio the next day and record another 15.
Well, it's like Marlon Brando. Before he died, Marlon Brando had his face digitally scanned.
Yeah,
because he was smart enough to know that digital reconstruction and computers were the way of filmmaking. He's like, get my likeness on a computer so that way after I'm dead, you can put me another Godfather or something like that.
So we have our little cameo. He plays a barber, and that is the moment that we see a transition from old Thor to new Thor, both in his haircut, which is something that you see in some of the comics, but we finally get the iconic helmet.
Yeah, we had seen it in like 2 scenes in the first Thor movie, and that was it.
And then he tossed it aside, and he had his long, luscious locks.
Yeah, you don't want to keep all that hair under wraps.
No,
gotta let it flow.
So we get him out there, and then we find that Loki is also on Sakaar, and he's made buddy with the Grandmaster. And this is what I want to talk about when referring to them giving away the Hulk, is that we see the Hulk, and here's our big fight in the arena. I read a couple articles on this as I was going through and looking, and I find myself agreeing with them that there wasn't a moment outside of Odin's death that was really shocking or like a huge reveal in this movie that I can particularly think of outside of Hulk being there. And they didn't try to hide it at all.
No.
It was in the very first teaser, and it was in every single piece of marketing. Ruffalo and Hemsworth were both the guys who went out for all of the interviews.
Oh, yeah.
So,
because folks have been clamoring for a while, ever since Ruffalo showed what he could do in the first Avengers. They want more Mark Ruffalo Hulk.
Yeah.
And I think this was their way of saying, like, we're going to do what we can with him, Why wasn't Hulk... Because first of all, everyone was like, why isn't Hulk in Civil War? Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. Whoever side Hulk is on, that side wins.
There's no question.
Same with... You'd have to have Hulk on one side and Thor on the other. Mm-hmm. They'd have to be the only two that ever fought each other.
Yeah.
This felt natural. It felt like it had a good spot. We still don't know 100% how Hulk wound up there.
No, we see that there is a little bit of like his ship crashing. So this is where they do split away from the planet Hulk, because Hulk is actually sent away by Stark.
Yeah.
Strange and Xavier and all of these other, I think, aren't they called the Illuminati in the story?
The Marvel Illuminati.
Yeah. So they decide, hey, he's too dangerous for us. And I thought that they were going to say something about this because they said that no one on Earth likes him. So I thought there was a little bit of a connection to he's dangerous, that he's not liked, because that's how he ends up in Sakaar and Planet Hulk. But yeah, we don't necessarily know how he gets there, other than his ship crashes somehow, or he gets lost in space, and he just gets there.
My first thought was, are they going to ever explain it? When they didn't, I was just kind of like, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, it was okay without it.
He flew away. Something happened. He wound up there. Whatever. I don't care.
So we have this huge, awesome fight between Thor and Hulk, whereas I like to say that Thor has his moment of raidening out.
Oh, yeah. Thor goes Super Saiyan.
He does. He calls down the lightning. And Grandmaster says, nope, Hulk can't lose. And then we see, which I didn't know where they were going with it, but for all intents and purposes, it seemed like Hulk was about to kill Thor. Like he jumps a mile or two in the air and comes down on him. And that just shows you the absolute power of Thor. Is he wakes up with a couple bumps and bruises, if that, and he's okay. But it does knock him out.
And I thought it was a smart way to end the fight. You don't really know 100% how the fight ended, and I think that's because, let's be honest, a fight between Thor and the Hulk would never end.
It wouldn't.
It would just keep going, because even if Hulk hadn't... Because if Grandmaster hadn't zapped Thor...
He would have won. I think
he would have won, or at least it would have dragged it out longer. That's because when I saw the first Avengers, my thought was, it'd be nice to see a fight between Thor and Hulk, and we got one, and it was awesome.
It was really cool.
And then I find out that there's going to be a whole sequence of this movie dedicated to, no, we're going to make them fight again with weapons.
Yeah, which was cool because even though he doesn't have his hammer, he still manages a way to find a hammer. Built into the infrastructure of this arena that he pulls out.
Sounds to me like you had a really special relationship with that hammer, and that losing it was similar to losing a loved one.
Which, I love that you do that, because we haven't talked about Korg or Meek yet. Those two, and I loved because as soon as I saw it, I was like, they're okay, they're continuing the tie-in, because those are two characters in the Planet Hulk series.
Yeah.
Meek is not, from what I remember, I don't remember Meek having swords for hands in there. I do remember Meek being a character.
I think that was more just to play on the rock, paper, scissors joke.
Yeah, which I think was pretty funny.
Korg was just... And again, voiced and mocapped by Taika Waititi.
Yeah. Which was awesome. It was
great characters.
Very funny.
So intimidating until he talks, and then
you expect him to have this deep, Vin Diesel like voice, and no,
he's adorable,
little tiny guy.
I loved him. I loved every time he was on screen. Piss off, Ghost! Yeah. Oh, he got away. Yeah. Oh, you dug.
Yeah, it was great. His lines were, it was pretty much just a list of one-liners that worked.
I mean, he was dialogue. He was Michael Pena.
Yeah,
I mean, he was Michael Pena's character from Ant-Man, and I think Ant-Man really showed. I mean, the first Guardians did, but Ant-Man really showed how much you could get away with the comic relief character without taking away from the film.
Yeah, because and also you don't have to have your comic relief character be the only one who supplies any comedy within it.
Some of the best jokes are Thor's.
Yeah,
I mean, just some of the funniest moments in here are Hela's.
Oh yeah. Did you not hear me?
I am Hela, goddess of death, heir to the throne, whoever you are. Whoever I am. Did you not just hear what I said? You shall be my executioner. You don't just execute people, you also execute my vision. Mostly you execute people.
Yeah, and Hela was one of those characters that I didn't know what to expect. I don't think we'll get to this here at the end. I don't think that we've seen the last of Hela.
No, I don't either.
I don't think we've seen the last of her. So we have this fight. We more or less the next 20 minutes of the movie, not a lot happens. We do find out that Hulk has gotten there via the Quinjet, which is a little bit of a tie-in to... There's continuity there from Age of Ultron, but then for me felt a little bit like a tie-in to Planet Hulk with him being sent away on the ship. And then we get Banner after he sees Black Widow and sees Natasha. Man. And which was kind of a one of those realistic bring you back, because we've seen a lot of funny moments, we've had a lot of joking around and action, but it gets real for a second there when you see Hulk and Banner truly fighting over control.
This is one of the moments with some of the best cinematography in the film, where after Hulk turns back into Banner and he's watching the video screen of how he got there, and the video footage of Hulk's face lines up with his reflection of his own face on the monitor, which was just so well shot and so well edited. But this is the first time in the film we've seen Hulk struggle. Yeah, because we established before this he's been Hulk for 2 years.
Yeah, the next, like I said, in those 20 minutes, we discover that Banner is truly afraid of what will happen at this point if Hulk takes over again.
Yeah, he might not ever get to be Banner again, there is a point in the comics where Banner basically, he kind of goes Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and basically makes a deal with the Hulk, like, fine, where Hulk basically is like, I'll help you out, I'll let you kind of hold the steering wheel, but we're always gonna be the Hulk. We're never gonna go back to being Banner again, which is a callback to the comics as well. And
which I think we may end up getting there, because there are times where this is utilized as a comedic device where Thor is talking to Hulk and saying, "Oh, I hate Banner. He's all science and numbers." And then
I love science and I love numbers.
And then he flips it on him with Banner.
Oh, I don't like Hulk. He's all I like you.
Yeah, which I think that maybe we will ultimately just get Hulk version, because we see him talking more, which is the first time that we've seen a ton of actual dialogue coming from Hulk. So maybe that's where we're headed.
Because Hulk had no lines in the Ang Lee film. He had one line in the Incredible Hulk. He had one line in the Avengers. He had no lines in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we've seen the Hulk truly have. He carries out whole conversations with Thor.
And he is much more than just anger. You see his characterization and scene of. He loves the fame. He loves the power that he gets through being this champion.
Well, like his relationship with Valkyrie.
Oh yeah, it's like a puppy dog. Like
they're
he's
friends.
Smiling and they're playing around.
She gets him, and the first time she comes into his room, he's laughing and smiling, and she tackles him and pins him, and he's having fun with it.
Yeah.
We see that he knows he's the Hulk, but he can't understand why he's so angry. He doesn't quite grasp where all this anger comes from.
Yeah.
And we see that he is truly frustrated and saddened by a lot of his own situation. That, again, he knows nobody on Earth likes him. He knows he's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And again, the way his room is designed and the way everything looks and a lot of the dialogue he has, having all these women waiting on him hand and foot, again, direct callback to Planet Hulk when he's basically living like a king.
He is.
And so the way they utilize the elements from Planet Hulk and incorporate them into the story is so well done. Also, one of my favorite jokes in the film: Hulk gets out of a hot tub and just straight flashes Thor, and Thor's just like, okay, that's in my brain forever now.
Yeah.
Finally, the age-old question: does Hulk ever naked? Yep.
Yeah, he is, and there you go. So realistically, I'm looking through the rest of this. The rest of the time on Sakaar, it can be summed up as they escape from it, ultimately.
Thor convinces Valkyrie and Loki and Hulk to team up with him.
To be the
Revengers.
Which is hilarious.
Because I want revenge, and you want revenge, and do you want revenge, Banner? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. We have a lot of great jokes, a lot of hilarious conversation. We find out about Valkyrie's past, I think, is the most we get out of this, which is the Valkyries were wiped out by Hela. Odin sent the Valkyries which were an army of all women warriors, to take out Hela. Hela killed them all, except for 142, Tessa Thompson's character.
Yeah.
And they were able to subdue Hela somehow. She couldn't live with it. She left Asgard and has been living in a drunken stupor on Sakaar ever since. Loki tries to betray Thor. Thor catches him because he expects it at this point, leaves him paralyzed, and is like, all right, see ya, we're going to leave. And they leave.
Through what I thought was hilarious is the devil's anus.
The devil's anus.
The wormhole.
We're coming up on
door.
the anus.
No, and before we leave Sakaar, I did want, because I think this happens on Sakaar, my favorite joke of the entire movie, I was in tears, was when he was talking about Loki betraying him and talking about him transforming into a snake. Where he talks about he transformed into a snake because he knows that I love snakes, so I picked it up to admire the snake, and he transformed back into himself, and he goes, it's me, and he stabbed me. Yeah. And I was just like, I think that might have been improv, because they jump over to Hiddleston, and he's smiling, he's trying not to.
Yeah.
But I think that might have been improv
It may have been. It was just funny, and also, again, now that Hulk is back as Banner, he keeps bumping into Tessa Thompson. They keep saying, I feel like I know you. I feel like I know you. Because they're getting along so well, and they can't figure out why. Because Banner has no memories of being the Hulk.
He asks about the Sokovia.
Yeah, he doesn't realize how long it's been.
Yeah, he's where's this, and who's going on, and we didn't talk about this, but I love he gets dressed up in Tony's clothes. And he's playing with himself the whole time.
He keeps tugging at the crotch.
Yeah.
Tony wears his pants so tight.
Yeah, and he mentions it once, but then you see him a couple times just kind of readjusting.
Yeah,
and it's just a funny callback.
And I think there's also a great moment between him and Loki, because the last time he and Loki saw each other, he ragdolled Loki.
Which, there's the ragdoll moment of Thor, and you see Loki in the arena. He's like, yeah, now you know how I feel. That's how it feels.
Loki's reaction to the reveal of the Hulk was hilarious, because he didn't know, because he admits straight up in a line of dialogue, I haven't seen the champion, but I've heard he's incredible.
Yeah.
And then the Hulk busts out, and you just see Loki stand up and go, I have to get off this planet right now.
Leave.
Hey, Loki, look, it's Hulk. Loki's right there. And Loki's just like, don't tell him I'm up here. Don't tell him I'm up here. But yeah, we see Banner go to Loki and say, last time I saw you were trying to kill everybody. What do you do these days? It varies from moment to moment.
Yeah. And that continues through the rest of the film, which we're not really sure which Loki's going to show up. Yeah. So we get out of Sakaar.
We get off Sakaar. At that point, it's just adventure, shoot, boom, boom. We get off Sakaar.
And we end up with this face-off in Asgard on the Bifrost. We eventually we get to a point where we have our climax of the film where they're trying to get the Asgardians off, because Thor has come to the conclusion through
a lot of plot filler happens from here.
Yeah.
Heimdall has been basically Hela is just ruling over Asgard, killing anybody who gets in her way. The people don't like it. Heimdall's been taking refugees and hiding them in the mountains.
Yep.
Hela finds out about it. She goes to find them. About this time is when our Revengers wind up on Asgard and set up a plan.
Yeah. And it's you see this whole concept of Thor talking with Odin, or at least reflecting to the point where he realizes that the actual place of Asgard means nothing.
Yeah.
He talks about, and he even says, this could be Asgard. Anywhere can be Asgard. It's the people.
Yeah.
So the rest of the movie is, let's get the people off of the planet, get them safe for us to continue.
At that point, it's less about stopping Hela and more about just getting the people off the planet. Heimdall is leading the refugees down the Rainbow Bridge to the Bifrost.
Yep.
But the Bifrost is guarded by the big puppy.
Yep.
And then they can't turn back because we have Karl Urban and his zombies.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right, guess we're fighting.
And we have this big fight. We have another funny moment where Banner reveals himself as to be the Hulk, or he attempts to. He's like, watch this. Jumps off the ship, lands face first on the Rainbow Bridge.
Which is a great callback to the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Because the Incredible Hulk, he's basically, throw me out of the helicopter. I'll turn it. If I'm going to turn into the Hulk, this will do it.
Yep.
And it works.
It does. Which is
doesn't
funny.
Doesn't work this time,
No.
at least not at first.
And then he comes back and he takes on Fenris, and then the rest of the Revengers take on both Hela, Executioner, and the army.
Well, not Hela.
Hela waits. That's right.
She's in the palace fighting Thor.
That's correct.
And we have something happen during that fight that I didn't see coming. Thor loses an eye.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that. I'm like, they're going to go with that the rest of the time?
Well, and they had been real clever to hide that in the trailers because there's a scene in the trailers where we see glowing Raiden Thor on the bridge with both eyes.
Yeah.
Which was just CGI'd to look different in the trailer. When that scene happens in the actual movie, though, he's missing an eye.
Yeah. Which there's another thing, too, that I was looking at about that when he loses the eye, he becomes Odin, essentially.
Yeah.
There's that connection to his father, obviously. But when you mentioned the difference between trailers, when we didn't talk about this earlier, Mjolnir is destroyed in the city because when the bricks or when the pieces fall, they fall on like cement.
They changed it from one trailer to the next because the whole thing, that whole sequence is shot on a soundstage anyway.
Yeah.
I think they changed it just again to fit the narrative of the story they were going for.
They were trying to tell.
Originally, and there had been some like cell phone pictures of like little homeless nomad Odin just wandering the streets.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, they decided to kind of cut that and change that to no. Let's
send him.
Let's open it up a little bit. Let's also, I think it was Taika Waititi saying, "Can we not have everything bad happen in New York?
Yeah.
Can we move this somewhere else just for a minute?" Thor loses an eye, which I thought was a bold choice because we usually don't see bad things like that happen to our heroes.
No, and the thing is now they're stuck with that. I don't think they're going to be able to write that. I think Infinity War. He's going to have an eye patch.
That makes me curious because we weren't at Comic-Con. They showed some footage at Comic-Con, which they've still yet to release to the public. Those monsters. And I had seen some crappy cell phone bad angle views of it. The shots that I saw, Thor had both his eyes, and he had Mjolnir.
Okay. Well, I mean,
so I'm really curious what's going to happen, unless that was just that's just not going to be in the film now. Because Thor: The Dark World wasn't done by then. This was months ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that's something that'll get explained in the film. Maybe it'll just get changed.
Well, and I mean, here's the thing too: is for everybody could have put money down saying Loki was gone at the end of the first Thor. Like he fell off, and we're like, oh, he's gone. Okay, so next movie, and he comes back. So maybe they'll find a way to work around it.
Yeah, because they answered that question in a line of dialogue. Thanos found you floating around in space and brought you back. All right, cool. That's all I need to know.
Yeah. Which, speaking of. We'll get to that because we got a possible ship of Thanos in our mid-credit scene. Let's finish up though the main storyline. We find out that Ragnarok is actually a good thing that has been that is the way to protect to save Asgard, not the.
They're
place
rebooting the universe.
Yeah, they're going to start over.
Which was just, and again, I had forgotten about Surtur.
I had too.
I had forgotten about Ragnarok itself.
Well, and he tells... It's funny because if you pay attention to that first 10, 15 minutes, you know how the movie is going to end. because he says this is what is destined to happen.
Yeah.
Odin's gone. This will happen. And then you see Thor defeat him, and you're like, oh, okay, so it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And just forget about it completely.
Yeah, Ragnarok's a metaphor. It doesn't have to be Surtur. It's just somebody.
Somebody can destroy it.
Yeah.
Well, he sends Loki to grab Surtur's crown and put it in the eternal flame, thus then reviving him, and he becomes as big as a mountain, like he says, and he destroys all of Asgard. We see a moment which I actually wasn't sure where they were going to go with, but it was just another funny moment where Hulk goes and tries to destroy him. He gets picked and flung off like a little bug.
Thor, for once in your life, don't smash.
Hey, but bad guy, big monster.
But giant monster. Yeah. No. Fine.
And so then he destroys Asgard and seemingly kills Hela.
I don't buy it.
I don't either, because I believe that Hela she said this a couple times, she's the goddess of death.
Yeah.
She, to me, and I could be completely wrong, I think she's death as far as the connection to Thanos.
Okay.
Because
Thanos
is
that's good.
Servant to death. That's who he's basically gets the Infinity Stones for.
That's a good one. I didn't even think about that. I thought she was still alive just because when Surtur's sword comes down, there's a puff of green, and I was like, oh, she teleported.
Yeah.
I didn't buy she was dead.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it looks like when she dies, but I don't think... Again, it's Cate Blanchett. She was probably expensive to hire.
Yeah, they're gonna try to...
But if it's true and she's not dead, then it makes a lot of sense that we'll see her again in Infinity War.
Yeah. And I mean, because we see the connection starting to be built between Thor's storyline and Thanos' storyline. And I think that could be, the nod there.
Well, we had also, the time we spend on Sakaar, visually, color palette-wise, design-wise, it reminds you a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, absolutely.
And they even name drop, what's the Nova Corps' home planet from the first Guardians? I'm drawing a blank on it all of a sudden.
I can't remember.
But Valkyrie says, so here's the way: we steal a ship, we go through this wormhole, we land on... Oh man, we land on that planet, Xandar.
Yeah,
we land on Xandar. We go through there. We get to Asgard in 18 months.
Yeah.
And that was their way of again, like with the Doctor Strange scene, bringing everything, starting to pull it all together.
Yeah, creating that frame for Infinity War. So we see that Asgard is safe, but it's the people, it's not the planet, and we get one final little. Humorous line from Korg saying, we can rebuild. We can, it's a foundation.
As long as the foundations are stable, we can rebuild.
And then it blows up into a million pieces.
Those foundations are gone.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a little funny moment, and then we see Thor and the Asgardians who are on this ship, and the movie's over. It's like all right.
He takes his seat as the king of Asgard, and all right, we're going to Earth, and credits.
Yeah. So mid-credit scene, our first one, which I'm not disappointed that we only got two. I'm disappointed that we didn't get more.
I'm disappointed that those were the two we got.
Yeah, I think
they
two
weren't
would have
bad.
been fine. But
with this close to Infinity War,
I expected a little more.
I needed more than just, what's that ship?
And so I had found out that the rumors of the Comic-Con trailer show Thor, how we get Infinity War to essentially start is that the Guardians of the Galaxy are there, and Thor smacks up against their ship in the middle of space. So we can assume that this ship is destroyed by Thanos or whoever this would be. Assumably it would be Thanos. And then that's how we get Thor to be with Guardians of the Galaxy, who then will work their way back to Earth. So I mean, if that's where we're going with it, fine. But I just expect to see more. With it, like you said, with it being so close to the next time we will see any of these characters, unless we get a little cameo or connection here in Black Panther,
and see,
is going to be almost a year.
I don't know how much connection we're going to get in Black Panther, because Black Panther seems like the kind of film that's going to be so self-contained. Yeah, within Wakanda.
I think it's only going to talk about what's going on around it, but not necessarily show it.
Yeah,
give you some continuity of what has been going on and where they are currently in the timeline, but I think that we really will only get maybe a little bit of it in the end, very end, or the credit. That might be our tie-in.
Any ties to Infinity War we get in Black Panther are going to be in a post-credit scene. It's going to be someone going, "Hey, T'Challa, we need your help, buddy. Can you go unfreeze Bucky? We got to go do some stuff," and that'll be the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so that's why I think that we should have gotten more. Even then, too, the ship is not so well known that it's immediately identifiable.
I didn't know what it was until somebody said it closely resembles a Chitauri head, and I was like, yeah, kinda.
That's the only real tie that we get.
Especially, maybe it's because I'm spoiled because Guardians 2 had 5 post-credit scenes.
And all of them were well done. Like,
really
funny.
Good.
And,
But even with Guardians, only one of them was story-centric. The other 4 were more Easter eggy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the actual post-credit scene we get is not for everyone. If you're not a fan of Jeff Goldblum in this movie, don't stay for the final post-credit scene.
No, absolutely, it's not even worth it. But I think the majority of people appreciated him.
I hope so.
And it has no purpose other than a little bit of humor.
It's just funny,
and I feel that
it's the Howard the Duck scene from the first Guardians.
I think we're done with Goldblum. I don't think we're going to need any more Grandmaster. No. So it's kind of a thank you for doing this for us. You get a little moment. Go do your thing one last time.
So this revolution was awesome. Well done. And of course, I was a big part of it. You can't have a revolution without somebody to overthrow. All right.
And he calls it a tie.
It is a tie.
It's a tie. So yeah, I mean, it's a good end scene. It's not. It's to me, it's very similar to the one that we got in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Gives us actually nothing, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It was an idea somebody had for a scene. That's the way I feel like. I feel like some of these post-credit scenes is we wrote this scene. It's funny. Couldn't find a place for it to fit in the actual movie. Chuck it in the credits, and we'll worry about it later.
But
yeah.
All right. So before we look at our final thoughts, I want to talk about the segment that we've been doing called "The Character You Wanted to See More Of." Who's a character that you didn't get to see enough of in the movie that you wanted to see more?
Honestly, the Hulk. Outside of the Hulk fight in the middle when we first meet him, and the couple of scenes he has with Thor before he becomes Banner again, we don't see Hulk do much. The fight on Asgard with Hulk, I thought, was kind of blah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't...
He fights the big dog.
And we don't get much of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the fight is maybe 15 seconds, and it's cut between 2 or 3 moments.
And he throws the dog off the edge of Asgard, and we don't see him again until the end.
Mm-hmm. And when he happens to just jump on, and that was one of those little missing holes, is he's holding on for dear life.
Right.
He looks like he genuinely is afraid of falling, and then he's on the bridge again.
And I understand, like, that climb would probably take him a while. Yeah. Even the Hulk, he's climbing up waterfalls in space.
Yeah.
That'll take him a while. That's fine. But maybe it was something with the CGI budget. Maybe it was something with how much of the movie he was legally allowed to be in because of Universal rights. Wasn't there much. Most of... all his scenes were great. I wanted more of them. And then... also, again, I'm so disappointed with how useless the Executioner was.
Yeah, it didn't feel fleshed out enough. It just was kind of... It was missing.
Again, I thought he was a well fleshed out character. He was Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He serves no purpose. The story begins and ends the exact same way with or without him.
Yeah.
So,
for me, I'd throw out, I think, Korg and Meek. I wanted more Korg and Meek in the movie.
Yeah.
I think that it was, for me, it was so important to see the Planet Hulk connection for me, and I was intrigued by it. I was impressed with it, and I just enjoyed it. And it was hilarious, but I think that Meek in the actual comic is much more than just this kind of
Meek did
ninja.
Nothing in the movie.
He did nothing except for almost die. He got stepped on. Oh no, he's alive.
Which is again one of my favorite jokes in the movie. Oh, Meek's dead. I stepped on him on the bridge. I brought him along because I felt bad. Oh, Meek's alive, everybody.
Meek.
What was the question?
So I mean, I wanted a little bit more of them just because I think that it was their storyline. Of course, they were not part of it. I hope they stay along. Maybe get a minute or two in Infinity War. It seems like they're going to at least be present, so hopefully they're not forgotten. We talked a lot about the Easter eggs. Have a favorite one that you saw that you were...
Ooh, a favorite Easter egg. Well, I did manage to find out, I was looking on my phone, who all the heads were on the Tower of the Grand Master. Beta Ray Bill.
Yep.
Ares.
Okay.
and Man-Thing.
Man-Thing. Is that the one with the two heads?
I didn't recognize Man-Thing.
I'll
have to go back and see it again, which is...
Oh, Man-Thing. No, that's Man... Seriously?
Man-Thing is Marvel, is Swamp Thing with the
Swamp
mustache.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's what you know the jokes they make about DC and Marvel stealing from each other. It's pretty true.
They did.
It's pretty shameless, but yeah, I outside of that, the joke during the play about Loki turning Thor into a frog, straight out of the comics.
Yeah.
Throg, I think his name was, or Throgger, or whatever.
Yeah.
Where Thor was a frog.
I have that issue. There's a Pet Avengers, and it's a bunch of it has Lockjaw from the Inhumans.
Oh
and
my god!
We have.
I love Lockjaw. Don't love the show, but I love Lockjaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. It. Oh, one we didn't talk about. The first time Hela goes into the treasure room, and he's like, all of Odin's treasure. She goes, fake, and knocks over the fake Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Which everyone's been asking, wait, how does Thanos have an Infinity Gauntlet, but it was in Odin's treasure room? And that was a big question. And I think this was Taika Waititi saying, is nobody going to address this?
Yeah.
All right, fine, I'll do it. Fake, done. It solves that problem. Also, again, like her seeing the freezing cube from the first Thor, walking, boring, thought it'd be bigger, sees a Tesseract. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Cool stuff like that. But other than that, I didn't catch too many actual Easter eggs, other than the ones that we mentioned. All the allusions to Planet Thor were great.
Yeah. I think that my favorite one is probably the Beta Ray Bill.
I know.
When I saw that, I was pumped. And I think for me, the fact that it is included, there's hope that maybe they'll go there someday. They're acknowledging that it exists, that he is part of this. So maybe one day.
I need it.
But maybe.
I need some Beta Ray Bill.
All right, so your final thoughts on Thor Ragnarok.
Final thoughts on Thor Ragnarok. It's not the best Thor movie. It's the second best Thor movie. I still think the first Thor movie is something to behold. But it righted the ship from Thor the Dark World, because after Thor the Dark World, I was scared about this movie. I was like, it looks good, but so did Thor the Dark World.
Yeah.
I think it's a great, solid film. Thor the Dark World is not a must-see. This one is a must-see. It does a great job of expanding the universe while at the same time also drawing enough through lines to other parts of it to make it start to feel whole again. Because up until this point, everything outside of the Avengers characters, nothing felt connected. We knew they coexisted. We didn't feel connected. Mm-hmm. The stuff with the Guardians references and the Doctor Strange cameo made it feel a little bit more connected. Most of the stuff that I had a problem with was really nitpicky. Again, The beginning was a little fast-paced. Where's Sif? Why is Executioner in this movie? Other than that, though, I thought the movie was wonderful. You should, if you haven't seen it yet, you need to rush out and see it right now. If you've got Movie Pass like Aaron and I do, go see it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go check it out again, just because it'll be out for a while, and I know that I'll probably use up all the movies that I want to see in 1 week, and I'll just want to go see it again. So, all right, so on a scale of 1 to 5, let's see. I actually got some feedback. People were disappointed that last week for Suburbicon we did not have a special ranking. It was just 1 out of 5 stars. So let's bring it back for those of who are disappointed.
Suburbicon was... It was a movie.
It was, yeah. So we enjoyed it. Okay, so out of 5, I don't know, let's say... 5
large, big-ass Sicarian beers.
There you go. On a scale of 1 to 5, very large, badass Sicarian beers, what do you rank Thor Ragnarok?
I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay.
Three beers and a chaser.
Okay.
Again, couple of nitpicky things, but all in all, I mean, it's delightful. It's fun. You will if you leave this movie having had a bad time at the movies, don't go see movies anymore because. Yeah. You're misguided.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to you. I gave it a 4. I think that for me, the humor was very well done, and there was not a single joke that I didn't laugh at. But I think that I was almost just turned off a little bit by the amount of humor overall, just because I felt that it at times felt like, okay, well, this joke could have been funnier if we didn't have the 3 ahead of it.
Right.
But again, there was not a single moment that I like you had said earlier, I didn't feel like, oh, okay, all right, let's get back on track. I just feel like there were moments where, okay, the humor was maybe utilized a little too much.
That's kind of how I felt about Guardians 2.
Yeah.
Guardians 2, I felt like all the jokes were funny. There were way too many.
Yeah.
That's why I was telling my mom, I said, this feels more like Guardians 1, where the humor is prominent, but it wasn't off-putting.
Yeah.
Whereas with Guardians 2, I got to a point where I was like, all right, come on, let's move on.
Yeah, the plot was great. Like you said, you cannot go to see this movie and not enjoy it, just at least having a good time. You may not get everything if you haven't seen everything, and Thor may not be your favorite hero, but they give you a storyline that is intriguing, is humorous, it's exciting, and it's very well worth it. So I'm going to go a solid 4 beers on this one. So that about wraps it up. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you saw the movie and you agree or disagree with us, go ahead and reach out either through email, drivein.eventide@gmail.com, or you can reach me on the Twitter at drivein.eventide. Mike, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what we can expect to hear from you here in the next week or so.
Well, with Track Record, Robert and I, we give each other a different theme. So if you listen to this week's theme, it was the epitome of classic rock albums. So go check that one out. I'm not going to give away what our theme is for next week just yet.
Okay.
And then getting towards the end of the year, we're going to be working on our best of 2017 list for Track Record. And as far as Mike Talks Funny goes, I usually pick the topic the day before. It's just
what's on your mind.
Well, because usually I record it on Monday night, and so it'll just be like, okay, Monday night. So usually when I go to open mics, it's like, what happened at the open mic today that I want to talk about? Let's talk about that as an overlying theme. But like I said, recently I did a tribute. We did our Halloween episode at the end of the month. So it's always a fun show there. And then every Monday, if you're in the Dayton area, go to Ollie's Place in Centerville and watch me get drunk and do stand-up.
Sounds good. Well, I am going to be out of town this weekend, but don't worry, you still will be hearing from me next week. Going to be going to see Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah.
You're going to get a family episode. I'm going to visit some family in Iowa, so this next episode will be coming to you from Iowa. The mother-in-law, the wife, and maybe the sister-in-law too, if I can convince her to join in. So be looking forward to that. Thanks for listening to us, guys. Drive home safe. We'll see you later.